We're back with a crispy, fresh episode of Take It Personal. And this time, we're joined by special guest, Mr. Eon of the High and Mighty. Eon sits in with us as we take it back to the late 90s and early 2000s, where the indie era was extremely prominent. And now, let's welcome a man who was an intricate part of this indie era, Mr. Eon.
Yo, just relax. Y'all know the name. Take it personal. Right now you're tuned in to Take It Personal. Y'all, I'm ready to put y'all up on something, man.
The revolution is here.
No doubt.
Yo, this is KRS-One, checking out the Take It Personal radio show.
Yo, check it out, y'all. This is DJ Premier.
Yo, what's up? It's Black Thought from the Legendary Roots crew, and you checking out Take It Personal Radio.
Yo, check this out. It's the Soul Brother #1, Pete Rock.
Yo, what's up? This is Diamond D representing Digging in the Crates right here on Take It Personal Radio, the best in hip-hop.
You are now checking out.
Y'all know the name.
Boy Pharoahe Monch, you already know what it is. I want to give a big shout out to the Take It Personal show.
This is Chuck D.
This is Flavor Flav, boy. And you checking it out. Take it personal. So, yo, do that.
Right now, you listening to Take It Personal. Spinning that fly shit. You heard.
Yo, what's up? It's Eric Summer, the Green Knight Bandit, representing EPMD, here on Take It Personal Radio. This the truth.
Check them out.
Yo, what's up? It's the artist named Kool Keith. Checking out Take It Personal.
You're checking out Take It Personal with my people.
Y'all care anymore about this hip-hop, man?
What you waiting for? Gotta style my man. I'm like,
Check it out, it's your boy MC Surge, and right now you're checking out Take It Personal. It's not a game.
Take it personal.
Alright, yo, ladies and gentlemen, right now, if you don't know what the fuck is about to go on, this is Take It Personal. With my boy Full Flavor, Kevlar, Aaron, Roger the announcer, and DJ 360 with his stinking ass. This is Take It Personal, and we in the building, yeah.
All right, back from the break, and I'm going to take the ball right here and run with it like fucking Bo Jackson and Super Tecmo Bowl, because that's how we get down on this show, and we are privileged to have a pioneer from the indie era and a group that made a huge impact from the late 90s up through the mid-2000s. Mr. Eon from the High and the Mighty and Eastern Conference Records. Welcome to the show, my man. Good to talk to you.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much for having me.
From about, 98 to maybe 05, they were a force in the indie scene.
97, right? I think your first single came out in 97.
Yeah, I think right at the end of like 96 and early 97, yeah.
I remember sending Ed from Sandbox a check for your first single with Bobbito.
Really?
Wasn't that your first single with Bobbito? Hands on.
We did. No, I think we did. Well, I did the first one with Rashid, who's ill-advised and all those.
Yeah.
And It's How I'm Living. That was on Rashid's song. I think that was Quake City. I think that was Newt and those guys.
Newt Cohen.
Yeah, that was the first appearance, and then we did, like the first single.
The first High and Mighty record was.
Yeah, the first High and Mighty record was the single. Dear God, Cranial Lumps and those and Hands On Experience. And then the other joint. And yeah, that was amazing. And being able to just, jump right in. It took us basically moving to New York and 2 years of Mighty My kind of getting his foot in, DJing and meeting people and then kind of just kept making music. So we were lucky enough to kind of just start off like that.
So E, from the jump, you had mentioned Bobbito, that single that you had done. Most people don't know, but let's talk about that early meeting with Bob. If I'm not mistaken, at Boston University, he was throwing a party, and did he approach you and ask you to come up to KCR? I mean, what was that story? And if you can elaborate, when you actually did go to WKCR, This is where they had the Stretch and Bobbito show, WKCR 89 Tech 9. We would love to hear a great story from those sacred walls, good, bad, and the ugly ones.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the whole thing at BU was dope. I think there was some show that he was putting on, and there was some girl who was like cute, who I think she was like in some way we hung out with her and knew her, and then she I don't know if he was trying to get with her or something, but like he was like rapping with her, and then he came over, like he was just like in our crib, and like we lived on Marlborough Street right off Mass Ave, and for whatever reason he came up, and then it was like, I remember like Mai was like, yo, Bobbito's coming, and like, think of something that's, to rhyme about, like try to, rhyme for him in some way. So I think it just came, like real naturally, because they're, like the Stretch and Bob whole thing is just, it's so like natural. So he was just like, yeah, man, kick some shit. And I did. And he was like, okay. He was like, dope. He was like, when you guys are in New York, come through. And while that was happening, Mai, was a big club DJ in Boston. And as, he went, and as we like graduated from BU, so that was like 93. And so we were still at BU, and then one time we went up there, and because Mai was like talking to Stretch, and like he started to like kind of get involved, just kind of with like the scene, even though we were still in Boston. Like we went a couple times to New York, and then I just remember going, just being like, that time was just completely, nerve-wracking, right? Because I was like, it was just, at that point, I didn't really know if I was going to have a whole hip hop career and all that. Like you're really literally in college, and I'm like 22 or whatever. And so doing that was like the hugest thing that told me I could do it, And so like being able to actually, go up there first, doing this for Bobbito and rhyming for him and him thinking it's dope. And then to go there, and it was pretty good. I remember like, if I look back, it was like in my weird Kool Keith, like weird voice thing. I don't know if you've ever heard that. Just like, you gotta go back and listen to it. But it was dope. And like, then we went back there, a lot of other times. And those were some of the more funny times where like, like there wasn't a lot of room back there. A lot of stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun,
So they're synonymous with having like way too many heads inside the studio at the time, and right. People knocking on the door trying to get in. Do you remember who was kind of up there or trying to get up there at the time? I mean,
well, at that one, I think we just got in, and I think me and Mai just went up one time. I don't know if we ever went up with Ill Advised and Rashid, but we went up. I think it was just me and Mai, if I remember correctly. But then, like, the other times when it was like Camus, Cage, Yak Balls, Copyright, me, and then Mai would be there, and like other people would be there. Those were crazy because you would have to shuffle in. Like you would have 3 chairs and like 5 dudes. And so here are the 3 dudes rhyming. You have to like rhyme and sneak off, and it was like this pattern. And then like then it was funny. So that was. Those were some funny times. And never really had any violent things there because they weren't having that. But
right.
I remember like all the records there and stuff, and like Stretch would dig in there and stuff, and like Mai would look at records sometimes in there too.
Mr. E.
Yeah, we got somebody else up in
We got Mr. Eon.
Yeah, yo, pen to paper, the notebook, the caper, elaborate sound blast found across faders. Pencil me in when the enemy spin. F the cavalry, the sending E in. Desperate times bring desperate measures. An ounce or an eighth or a pint of whatever. Militant weed smoker, passing jokers. Pocket full of sticky for a pocket full of kroners. The lab rat spit science and add to that. Got diseases most heads would laugh at. For all y'all, it's a world of hurt when I'm held up in a compound just like Colonel Kurtz. Yes.
Well, another big DJ in New York at the time was Mark Ronson, and most people don't realize how underground he was at the time.
Yeah,
He was playing at
Yeah.
Rehab. I used to DJ with him as well back in the day. And there's a funny story, and I'd like you to tell it if you could, how
Yeah.
he was, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was seeing Rashida Jones, Quincy Jones's daughter at the time, and he had a big part in kind of getting you guys set up.
Yeah, well, I think Mai had a big part in like kind of, Mark is obviously musically talented, but at that point, he was younger than us, and DJ, you don't really know, but I don't know, I guess they were seeing each other, but I know they lived together, and it was just like, they didn't really, they were very young. If I was like 25, they must have been, 20 something, and so Mai was kind of with, Ronson and like Stretch, but like Mai kind of really would like go over blends and stuff. And like, obviously, Mark picked it up right away, and he was, he became a big club DJ. But, there was a time that we all hung out because they had this crazy crib. What it was is they lived together, but I don't know if they dated because it was weird. But they had this like crazy crib that was like probably, 1997 or something, and it was, or 98, and it was just, gigantic crib that these two young kids were at. But, then it's like, oh, it's Quincy Jones' daughter, and
not only that, when your dad's in Foreigner, you're making you got space.
Very,
you don't have those
then,
600 square foot places.
Yeah.
Well, if it was 1997. There was probably a 50-inch screen and money green leather sofas, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis.
Yeah.
Yes. But I remember because he's done like mixes and stuff on our really early records, and then she was on Dick Starbuck, and she was on Rashida Jones was on some of our songs, so that all would just be how like we all hung out. It's like we had that's like what happened in so many aspects of our career, just meeting a certain person through this person, and then like, something amazing happening, so we were lucky, and we were in the right place at the right time, and young and hungry, and, sort of talented.
You guys grew up together in grade school. I know you went to the same grade school since like third grade or whatever. So you go way back. At what point did you actually say, hey, let's make some fucking songs together and see what happens? When did that happen? And at what point did you go, hey, I think we got something here?
Well, in 1987, we went to the Beastie Boys, Murphy's Law, Public Enemy.
Yeah, I was at that concert. That was a great show.
And what it was walking into the Philadelphia Spectrum, which is, like the Garden in Philly. And I walked into like Public Enemy #1, the song. So, you don't even hear that, like any of that kind of music, like whatever hip hop you heard, I kind of just thought it was like, with that like that. I was just, we bugged out. And then we had a talent show in May of 1987. And I think we have a picture of it. And we performed. And we just rhymed over that, and we did, like we were freshmen in high school, and we just like rapped on stage, but like did like, it was probably corny, but it was dope. And then, so we were in 9th grade. We did like all the talent shows through senior year. Senior year, we had dancers and like, and like Mai was like doing like a whole like routine. And then I went to Northeastern to start off in college, and he went to BU, and it was kind of just happened, but it was good that we did. And then Milo in 91, we did some stuff, and we recorded some stuff in Boston. But then in 92, I got an MPC 60, and then that was it. So he just started making beats, and we just started making songs. And then, in 94, 95, we moved to New York. So then we just kept doing songs in like 96. Like even the ones before, like the first record, were kind of like, we really were progressing. Like, let's this is good, but let's like do this. And then like I didn't even have like a really equipment. And then in 92 we did. And that's when he just took off with, production and learning that machine. And then, as he built his studio. And so I think like 96, that's when we ran, being in New York for 2 years, and my DJ'd for 2 years. And he made, awesome connections like Rich King at Fat Beats and the whole Fat Beats crew. Like we linked and we finally, gave them something. And then they linked us with like LP and like Mike Zoot. And then we just were in that world. Like I was doing New Eurekan Poets Cafe stuff and going to Fat Beats. So even though I didn't like grow up in New York with like that whole scene, then I kind of moved there in 94 and was doing that. And then like 90s, we just kept doing songs. And then, 96 in November, that's when we recorded all those and they came out. So I think that's how it progressed.
So you went from Philly to Boston to New York. You talked about the way you guys grew up together. Would you say those experiences in those cities kind of molded you into this group? Like, did you take something out of Boston and out of Philly when you went to New York? Because of your mindset is different in each city, I would imagine.
Right. Yeah, like Philly was just growing up. And so like, the obvious sports, the hip hop, we grew up in Center City. So, people don't know Philly. It's kind of like outskirt and then it's like downtown. Like we grew up downtown kind of. And so there were these record stores called Sound of Market. It was like, you went and did everything. There was like Sound of Market was just a record store, but it also had, VHS and stuff or whatever. And there was a few of them, Sound of Market. And then there was Funko Mart. So there was, you went out with your boys and like, then there was sneakers and there was this place called I. Goldberg's that had all the starter jackets and posters. And, so that was like, that's how we grew up. We grew up going like, and like me and mine, when we were 16, we worked in Foot Locker in the gallery so we could get sneaks. So we were that's what Philly was. And then Boston was really like maturing as an MC and like he DJ'd in like Lansdowne, which was like the main clubs, like in college, like he was doing really well. And I just remember, going and hanging out with some of the, the Boston groups. And that was really, in terms for me, like emceeing and obviously going to college. But like that was the more like competitiveness of it and meeting different people and not just, like taking it more seriously.
So you're on that alumni list with Howard Stern and Jason Alexander. Who else went to BU? I'm trying to think. There's some
I know, I forget. Rick Pitino coached there.
Okay.
I don't know. A couple now. I guess. Apparently, it's like it got really good. Like when I was there, the business school, the business school hadn't been built yet. Right? It was still Burger King and like on Mass Ave. And then I think I left like '94, and then it like really flourished. They built this business school, and like now I hear it's like really hard to get into and all that. Yeah.
So I want to ask this quick question before we kind of go back to the music, but you talked about the New York. Is that where you became such a diehard Mets fan? Or is it your age and they happen to win the World Series and then you gravitated towards them? I can't, for the love of God, figure this out.
Here it is, man.
Yes.
Fellow diehard right here.
This is killing me.
Fellow diehard right here.
I went to the World's Fair and fell in love with Queens.
No, I was the hugest Phillies fan, man. On my wall, I have We Win. I have a newspaper that I bought when I was 8
it's in
years
here.
old.
All that stuff is in here,
right?
In the booklet.
It's all in the back. And then I'm 8 years old. So then in 2 years, from 82 to 84, they got rid of every one of my heroes. They had Pete Rose left. They traded Boa and Bob Janier and them and Moreland for Ivan De Jesus. Like Steve Carlton left to the Indians or whatever. That was like a little bit later, but I just felt like I was like immature and stupid. And I was like, I was like frustrated in like 82. And then even in 83, I started liking, I think it was like because like I heard of Darryl Strawberry.
That was his rookie year.
I think I fell in love with him, man. And I was super into baseball cards. So in 1983, I knew every like starting team of every like team, like the starting infield. And so I really literally felt betrayed. And I just didn't know any better. And so then Dwight Gooden came and they got like Keith Hernandez and George Foster. So it was like all these guys that I loved.
Gary Carter.
And baseball was number one. Back then, no one will tell you different. Like baseball was, anyone who's 50, I'm 50. It's like baseball was like the highest level.
Mm-hmm.
So we were into that. And then then like the summer of 84 was like the first year I started really following the Mets. And that was like they lost to the Cubs in the NL East. Then the next year they even got better and they lost to the Cardinals. And then I remember and it just rolled into it. And I was like a freshman in high school. So I don't know. And look, man, they haven't done shit since. So that was 14. That was 36 years ago.
Well,
so
I know
you're on me.
You're a diehard Eagles fan. I always see you.
20-year season ticket holder.
I always see you every Sunday in the home games doing your thing in the parking lot. I know you're
love the music blasting in the parking lot. It makes everybody's day.
So you're a diehard Eagles, diehard Sixers, and I don't know how you gravitated towards the Mets, but there you go.
That's what it was, man. And I literally was the only one. Like obviously, like they all killed me. They were just killing me.
You watch an episode of the Baseball Bunch back in the day and you fell in love with someone. Come on, who you fooling?
Right. Gary Carter. Remember they announced it during like an NFL game. It was great.
There's another rapper who's another diehard Eagles fan, and I would just love to hear your side of what fucking transpired. But if you guys don't know who I'm talking about, it's Masta Ace. And Masta Ace, for those that don't know, is a huge Eagles fan. He's also one of those guys who's never ever had beef, other than getting jaw jacked by Fat Joe once. You've never heard anything about Masta Ace beefing with people. Somehow, Masta Ace put out a diss record over what we were told is a misunderstanding. But now that we have you 20-some years later, I'd love to hear what the fuck happened.
Well, I'll start it off with when we lived in New York, we used to go with John Schechter, who started The Source, and we would go to this one sports bar. Different people would show up there. Like we had some weird people, like, I don't know, like Mild Stars or something of the early 90s. And like, and then like Masta Ace came, and it was I just have a weird memory. 1994 when we beat San Fran the year they won the Super Bowl, 95. We beat them, and we were at the sports bar, and he was with us. So it was like a group of 6 dudes. We were all talking about the Eagles, and then we were talking that we rapped and stuff, and like we were fully like Masta Ace Eon. Like he knew who me and my were, and we had other experiences. So then fast forward to whenever it was, I think it was for Cage's album, we were at like a new music seminar, CMJ or one of those Johns, and Cage was doing Suicidal Failure. And in the song, he says, pumping Masta Ace, I walked into a Jewish slaughterhouse.
I drank a bottle of Jack, sniffed 3 bottles of Kitty. In the middle of the freeway, walking to the city. So much PCP, I changed my name to Watermouth. Pumping Masta Ace, I walked into a Jewish slaughterhouse.
So it's not a diss of Ace, it's just like a play on words, right? So he had one of his dudes, like, who either was in his crew or something, named Tone Deaf, which is the funniest part of the whole thing, that this is the dude who heard this, and his name is Tone Deaf, and that he heard that and was like, yo, Ace, the High and Mighty dissed you, and said, fuck Masta Ace Slaughterhouse. And that's what happened. So then he did it, and then we heard it, and we were like, what? And then we put it together, and then someone told us that, and then like Mighty My, like we like then talked to him, and he was like, Ace, it's me, Milo, remember? Like, we used to go and watch the Eagles games together and stuff like that. And then I think Ace was like, oh, yeah. And he was like, look, man, like, that was a dude. And he played him the record. And there's actually, they did it on something. Like, I think it's recorded or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But, like, it was a known, you know, and then he was like, oh, yeah, sorry. Or, like, whatever. It wasn't real.
So, it should have been something directed towards Cage. But you guys got lumped into it.
Yeah, because it was just like, I think we were at that point like off the album. And so maybe Tone Deaf just didn't even know who Cage was. He just saw maybe me and Mai up there with him. And that's what, you know, because we were all like all on the stage.
And Tone Deaf, is this the Tone Deaf from QN5? He's a rapper, that Tone Deaf?
Yes. I think so, yeah.
Wow.
Good call.
Yeah, that's you know, you hear different stories, but I wanted to hear from you because for years I could not figure out what really happened. But that's crazy. So obviously, once you had that discussion, he's like, "Oh, my bad, the song is already out there." Did you guys ever, at any point in time, consider putting a response record out?
No, I think I said one line was. Something old timers, Alzheimer's, some shit. Said in one song, I forget which one, and that was just the only little thing.
Meanwhile, he's your age.
Yeah, of course. I'm probably older than him now.
It was a low key diss.
Yeah.
It was low key.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was just a damn man. He didn't really do his research, you know, type thing.
Since we brought it up, Cage, let's talk about this for a minute. I know that Bobbito introduced you guys to Cage. And kind of, how did it happen that you paired up with Cage and ended up getting to the point of making an album, Smut Peddlers, and then other songs with Cage?
We met him, through Bob, and I think it was kind of after, you know, Agent Orange and Radiohead, like that single, and I think he was coming off of, you know, whatever with Pete Nice and all that stuff. So I think in like, you know, that was like 98, and like we met with him and we just like, first of all, I was like a huge fan. Like I was just like, yeah, like Mai was like, why don't we ask Cage? That's all we used to do is like people we like, we'd be like, yo, like let's try to link up with him. And yeah. And so then we hung out and like we went to Middletown and like we hung out with him and, you know, he had his little crib and it was like, and we were just like vibing. And then we were really like, yo, man, we love your stuff. And like, let's, you know, you want to come into the city and, you know, we'll chill and do it. And we just kind of vibed down. We just, you know, we did the one with Masai Bay and like, you know, that, you know, for the record and like that song and then One by One. And then we kind of rolled that as the whole Raucous deal came. It was just like the obvious thing was, you know, High and Mighty because the album was done and that's, you know, going into the Raucous stuff. But then we just did like, you know, we did, you know, in-outs and like for the High and Mighty album. So we were just kind of hanging and chilling. And then we were like, yo, we can do a whole album. Like, let's just do a Smut Peddlers album. And we were just like, all right, let's just do it. Like, it was just, you know, we were like, let's have the second album of our label deal be the Smut Peddlers album.
So before you guys went into the whole Ruckus era of your career, there was another label that was courting you, Tommy Boy, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
So what was the part of the deal that made you guys say we should go with this label over the other one?
Well, I think I don't think they wanted to really give us a label deal, or it was just high. It wasn't as concrete. Like we got a straight 3-album deal from Raucous. And I think that they wanted the High and Mighty album because we had done all the work. We had paid all the artists. It was like, it was any label's dream. It was like every contemporary, you know, of that era and like presenting like, you know, this album.
And they didn't do 3-album deals back then, Ruckus. I mean, they were a singles label. So, you know.
No, but we got a label deal because that's the whole thing is that me and Mai were just like, we're not going to be on Fat. You know, it started back when we're like, all right, well, we're going to put out a record. Like what? Like that's when we did everything. We were like, what's the label going to be called? And we made that up, and then we made it's like, the most fun part.
So you're saying the album was done before you went with Ruckus for the distro deal?
Yeah, like mostly all of it.
Okay, because
so, there was a couple pieces.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but I always was under the impression that Ruckus, not that they had a say, but maybe they suggested or made some connections happen. Because for me, I saw Mos Def on there, I saw Pharoahe, so I was always under the assumption that Ruckus put maybe the finishing touches on that album.
No, but it was really about B-Boy Document, because when we were,
there's two versions.
Yeah, so we put out, and we met Mos, and we did that. We didn't. So I hear what you're saying. You'd think that, but it really wasn't. It was we did the Mos Def song and the LP. We did Hands-On Experience with LP.
Correct.
We did, the first B-Boy Document.
Stay independent of all ill intent, non-threat. Won't infiltrate the conference. Abandon your notion of the papes. Planet of the apes. I'm the human who communicates. Invading tempest of this premises. Retardedness. Stay underground regardless. Transplanted to the heartless. The lung donor. Unsigned free agent. So fuck the owner. When I be the incrediblest. Verbal herbalist. So fuck the turbulence. Now let's make the investment. No resentment. Fuck the dotted line on Independence Day.
So we did, what it was is Ruckus saw that we did that. We put that out, and Ruckus was up here, and we put out this record that was the same vibe. It had, just like you're saying, their artist on there and everything. It was just, a synergy. And that's also about the Eminem part and how we got the deal part. So there was a lot of, that's all it was New York synergy of just everything flowing between everyone. It was very cool. So no, even we wanted open mic night on the album, the beat, and we loved it. But at that point, we had a thing with Ill Advised and them. So I was let's and I liked, and then we were all right, let's and we just knew everyone. We were let's do Thurston Howell and Wordsworth. So
you can see what I was saying though, because those are all Ruckus.
So the thing was about B-Boy Document was Mos does his same verse.
Yep.
And then, Mad Skills, who wasn't on the first record, is there. And we knew him. That's another kind of.
Was that from Reef?
Thing. What?
Was that from Reef?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yes. And then, me, I did a different verse, but when we first handed it in, we had a break, and it was my cutting up the original B-Boy Document. So it was B-Boy to the document, but B-Boy.
That's a Mantronic sample, fellas. You guys fuck with me with the Mantronic shit. That's a Mantronic sample.
It's Crown Rulers.
I'm letting you know, kid. You got an 80s kid here.
No, we interchanged two things, right? We used the Mantronics beat, and then we did an ode to Crown Rulers and named it B-Boy Document. But all I'm saying is
we're both right.
Dude, that's a Mantronic shit for the people that know. I don't care where you're at. This is...
Well, that's true.
It is what it is, but I love you for that.
If you want, the raucusification part was that they were Mos, do a dope hook. And so he did the hook.
But the crazy thing is, it seems like you guys got a better deal than almost anybody on Ruckus. And they were dealing with some big fucking stars. How does that happen?
Well, it wasn't a high and mighty thing. We were like Brian and Jared, the two owners. So we were our own we just rapped. The whole thing of Eastern Conference was just because we wanted to own everything. We never wanted to be on. So we just, and back then that's what it was. It was well, how do you want to put it out? We were I don't know. They were well, do you have a BMI? We're let's just make a label. So it was a label deal. It wasn't even, and even though that's why all the singles, we just were, So I think because they knew that we could do it, we A&R'd, the home field advantage, which has so many different people on it. And so I think they were these guys are they do everything in house. and they're going to generate and just produce albums for us. And that's what it was. On the other guys, they'd have to put out, they'd have to record and go to these big studios and stuff. They really didn't do that much with us, so that's where I think maybe they spend a lot more on those guys. I don't know.
You got a lot of early Alchemist production.
Yeah, man.
You said open mic night, which is the original. I love the original because Philly all the way, but you had a lot of Alchemist joints throughout, whether it's some Smut Peddlers to the High and Mighty. So obviously you did a lot of networking, but in retrospect, it's kind of cool to know that, hey, I had Alchemist on these albums. I mean,
man, we had some of his first stuff. It was just, another, again, like a synergy of meeting, because he was a freshman at NYU. Mm-hmm. So it was like we met him through someone like at NYU, and then he just, what it was is he had the illest weed, and it was 97, and that was before all the weed was like incredible. So it was like he had the really good weed, and then we would hang out, and then he'd just play us shit, and we were like, I mean, if you hear Top Prospects, you're like, oh my God. You hear like open mic night, like he had this shit. Mm-hmm. And it's just, it was just amazing. And like then, he dropped out of school, obviously. And then, he's just become what he's become, which is...
He became such a failure. Should have stayed in school.
Beautiful failure.
Tell us the story about how you connected with Eminem and Royce.
So that was Paul Rosenberg is Eminem's manager. And he's a lawyer, and he was coming from Michigan, and he linked up with John Schechter, who started The Source. And so they linked up, and I think John helped him out or something in some way. Then we met Paul through John, and he was like, these guys are trying to get a deal. And so, Paul was negotiating M's deal on Interscope. He had just done Eminem's deal on Interscope, and before Eminem came out. And so like it's this timeline of that, and then him coming to New York. And if you remember, there are these like group of songs that were all done together, and they were all done in like 5 days. So it's like Bad Meets Evil, which was on Game, which is John Schechter. Yep. We did, Last Hit. And then Royce did the one that was on Eastern Conference that Reef produced. And then there were 2 other songs, but they're like, it's just ill. So basically...
Scary Movies, probably.
Scary Movies. Right. And we got our deal because Paul Rosenberg was our lawyer. So like all of a sudden, he just negotiated our deal.
Oh,
so like
wow.
all of this is all intertwined. So like I don't even think we were... we went to Tommy Boy first, but then the Raucous thing happened. And it just was like, like Em had done stuff with Raucous. They knew him. And so like it was all kind of, that's how we hooked up. And we were able to record, we did it in Mighty Mi's living room. And I wrote it, I wrote everything. I was like, all right, we're going to go back and forth. And he was like, all right, what's the last word of, spina bifida. Okay. And he would just start writing. Manana's lifting, 6 feet, and that's how we did the song. And I wrote the hook. And I think I think I had most of the hook, and then he added parts to it. So, and then we just, we did that song, and then, we kind of knew he was going to be really big. I mean, we were like, he's with Dr. Dre. And I think we heard like "Hot My Name Is" before people heard it. And so we knew what was up, I think.
If you strip away all the guest spots, it's still a remarkable album. And I know, a lot of albums in that era, it was littered with guest spots, but you guys really made some good music. It's, as you're talking, you're like the Kevin Bacon of hip hop, because you have so many connections to so many different people. I'm thinking,
it is weird, man.
Alchemist is Scott Kahn. Rashida Jones is Quincy Jones. I mean, like, there are all these people within, Mark Ronson, all these people within your circle, or that you networked with throughout the years. It's pretty remarkable when you think about it,
No, it is. And it's just such a blessing from, like this has just been, a wild ride, the whole hip hop part. Like, you guys do your interest in hip hop and other things. And then you have like day jobs. And I've had, I'm like 16, 17 years in my day job now. So, my career, whatever that is. And so, yeah, man, I mean, we went to Europe and still like, it's just endless. Someday we're going to like either do some kind of documentary or.
Yeah, you need to write a book, do a documentary, something.
Yeah, man. It's just so, and it's funny too. It's just so like me and Mai are just like ridiculous.
So it's funny when you strip away all of like, the nonsense. We're all just hip hop heads. We love what we do. We've loved it from whatever era started you with it. You and I seem to be from the same, cloth here. But at the end of the day, what was as far as the independent movement, what was stuff that was moving you? I mean, you work with the mighty LP at one point. I mean, if you really go through El Producto's mind, I mean, he was a fucking ill dude. I mean, he wasn't as weird as Anticon, but he was doing all that static and weird shit at a time when it wasn't really fashionable. And then you kind of bring it forward to where it's at now with Run the Jewels. I mean, this dude's mind should be kind of in a glass case somewhere because this is crazy. So what was it like working with him or just in general? Who did you kind of vibe out to at that stage of it all?
Well, back then, like definitely El was incredible to work with him just because, they really came on the scene. When we moved to New York, like the 8 Steps to Perfection and, like that was just like the biggest thing kind of in this scene. Like the Fat Beats underground, like kind of New York scene. And it was just, it was really cool. And then, we all went in 98, but a big formidable part and memory and thing for us was when we first went to Europe. And that was, we went to this thing called the Roskilde Festival. And that was, Pharoahe Monch. And remember, this is Pharoahe Monch in between, like when he first went solo. He didn't have like any songs, like Simon Says didn't exist. And so, it was Arsonist, Nonfiction, Company Flow, us, and then
Super Underground.
Mass Influence.
Mass Influence was a nice one. Yeah.
Oh, yo, H2O was so good.
Yeah, they're awesome, man. I love that. Those guys are like, and when you go on, those tours, it's like going away to like summer camp or like your old school friends. It's just like, I have stories about talking about comic books, laying like sleeping on a floor 5 feet from Pharoahe Monch and like talking about the X-Men. Like I don't really know what what you want more from life than stuff like that. I'm just, that's just me. Like talking, like so yeah, man, these memories and being able to do that and like definitely that first album and then but like going to Europe and that expanding, like I don't know if you guys know like DJ Noise, who was like, one of the, Techniques turntable champions from like the late 90s. Like he went with us and he would do like a whole routine. He would like perform with us because like it was really just me. It's like kind of boring. And so like Mai would be DJing, but then like Noise would do like a whole routine. So, I mean, it was awesome. A lot of different things, from LP and then even Mos Def, man. Like I have like so many, like one time, remember he was on, I don't know if you know this show Law and Order, obviously, but the real old OG,
he was an actor really before he was
he was an actor before. And like when we did the song, like I was like, oh right, the dude from Law and Order. Like I almost like I did know of him as an MC, but I was almost like, oh, he's been on the show.
Brown skin, I be standing 5'10", I be rocking it when I be in your vicinity. Raw style synergy, recognize symmetry. Come try to injure me, broke them down chemically. Ain't the number 10 MC, talking about how when I be styled it like Kennedy, late like a 10 to 3. When I say when I be, girls say when I key, cause this dude's in that be working way out like Tennessee. Take me to a place called the BK without pause or delay. Get run like pen relay. Don't deal with he say, she say. Ain't working for no cheap pay. The most most deaf beat play. This what the streets say. Hey, Mr. DJ, play that Devil Mogan. That jam got me open. Decide to break it broken. From front, side to side, middle to back. Never the whack. I come from Bed-Stuy Black. From Louis AVE to be exact. Brooklyn.
And then like when we were both like unknown, one time like I'm walking down the street, he's like, yo, E. And he just was like, what's up, man? And it was like after we recorded B-Boy Documents, and it was like all genuine. And then, so yeah, there's a lot of different memories with a lot of different cool people who went on, to do a lot of amazing stuff. So it's a cool ride.
It's so relatable. It's like, you warp zoned into this hip hop world. Like, we are living vicariously through your stories now because you're like us, a hip hop head, first and foremost.
Right.
You grew up to this. I mean, when you had Kool Keith on your record, I'm sure it was a dream come true. I mean, like you would never have imagined you would be rapping alongside Kool Keith.
Yeah, the whole thing was surreal. But then it wasn't.
Yo, I'm $6 million, rapping like I'm Steve Austin, made of steel. Diamonds glitter on the Ampex rim. Supercharging my brain cells, glowing extra large in my afro sheen. Skin color should be green. Girls in the backseat with tongues stuck between a boo-boo. I'm rapping through you. On sidelines, he's talking to you. My finesse and Batmobiles, cruise with Adam West. Down Bronx streets and project buildings holding flashlights.
So the whole thing is, as you like sit back now and you think, it's very surreal. As it was happening, it's just like, it was amazing. No, but all those memories, like, I was always like very starstruck, like one of those, like, I gotta be cool. Oh my God, I'm about to meet like Del the Funky Homo Sapien. Yeah. Like when Del came up to me, the first time I met him, he was like, yo, you're Eon, right? Oh, you had that, and he knew one by one, because I don't know, that shit was like kind of rocking back then. Like
right. Fucking beat, banging, best song.
Rapping over it and shit, and he was like
banging.
He was like, yo, man, he was like, I didn't really like you at first, but he's like, you got a lot better. I was like, thanks, man. Like to me, I was like, oh my God, like that was amazing. Like, that was, so I have like a lot of those, and like when Pharoahe, thought that we dissed him, and we were sitting at the airport, and we had met him for 10 minutes. He's like, I gotta ask you something, man. What did you diss? Like on that, and it was again, trying to be cute like Munchie Cheese. I was like, no, Pharoahe. I was like in my way. I was like, no, man. I was like, you're like one of my heroes. Like without saying that, but so like it just what it is. It's like I'm just like one of you guys, and I just happen to do this, and it's it was awesome, and it's great.
Who would be your most starstruck moment? What MC or what,
I think like Run DMC. We got, and that's what it would be like. Then you just started rolling with the tide. Like that was the Salem Lights tour. Those cigarette guys got a lot of money.
Hell yeah.
So we were just with Run DMC. We had a bus and they had a bus. That. It was like, then there were that's another, like the money part is hilarious. So like, yeah, when I met them, I was just like, and I think I was like, yo, it's an honor. I hope we can represent well and whatever. And that, so I think Run DMC for sure was like the most.
Were they good to you?
They barely interacted with us, I think. I think we had like 3 interactions.
I'm sure Run was like, fuck out of here.
Mai said he got on the elevator at the hotel once, and DMC got on. He was like, yo, man, like we're on the show with you or something like that.
That's fine.
Because, we obviously don't look the part either.
So, Run DMC over Beetlejuice?
What the hell is your problem? They always smile and say, hey, Beetle, how you doing? How you smell?
Oh, no, yeah. Well, Beetle was just, he's, that was fun, but.
Y'all some lazy motherfuckers, man.
Now, whose idea was Beetlejuice to get on the cover and on
I think
on
we
the record?
Just were like, I think it was really like Mighty Mai. And we were like, we just got to make it as, real crazy.
Come on, you can't talk about these people like that.
Just completely absurd.
What the fuck is y'all guys trying to do?
We were totally going for shock value.
That was the independent way, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, we were just trying to do something different than the High and Mighty. We both like that shit, obviously.
Well, he was the hottest thing at that time on Stern, Beetlejuice. I mean, everyone couldn't get enough of him.
And it was cool. And that was pretty cool, Yeah, that whole experience was amazing too. And like, doing that was, and we did, we did Midnight Blue. I don't know if you know what that is. In New York City, on the public network, they had like this channel J. So it was like this low scale porn, and not even porn. It was like this woman, Robin Bird. She would lay, and she kind of looked okay, but she was like 50. She had like droopy tits, but she would. Then they would have like
back,
these commercials.
get comfortable.
And the commercials for like the escort services, but then. Midnight Blue, there's a guy like Al Goldstein.
It's sickening, and the people on television are even more sickening. Fuck you all.
Dude, I used to watch Midnight Blue like when I was 12, like jerking off, like in my like grandmother's like back room.
That's crazy.
And then to be on it, that's all it's about, man.
When I got the video for Bottom Feeders, I didn't know if I needed to jerk off or throw up because it was my
bugged, man.
Yeah,
puking on bitches.
It was
snorting coke off asses.
Dude, so imagine that I am in a world, like I have a 15-year-old son. So, you have like normal, like white kind of people, contemporaries recently, like, and then it's like, do they know? It's like this thing. It's like with me. It's like, even in my business shit.
It's like you used to be in porn.
I Googled you. Oh my God. I'm like, oh my God. So like, and I have so many things like that. And it was just, there's just so many of those. It was just ridiculous. But like, so like I played, so like Bottom Feeders, I was like, and I was like really high. It was like recently. It was like literally like last month. And I was like, and I was with like these 3 women, like married, like, like mothers, like just 3 white women. I was like, you want to see something? And I just put on my phone and I handed it to him.
So depressed, I'm doing whippets for hours, cause I realize I'm less popular than what's happening now was. There are women in pits in my basement, my trophy, Morgana's tits in a glass encasement. Like my sidekick, Gary Hodnick, I'm still banging the Todd chick, plus a hot bitch. Eon rains, fuckity hurricanes, you a cold front that's seen on every weather vane.
One of them was like, I really think of you differently. I was like, well, yeah, fuck you then. And like, so yeah, that one was crazy. And like all the videos we did were on so many different levels, it was like, the one for B-Boy Document was like very, very expensive. It was like $200,000 something, it was like effects and stuff they put on it and whatever. It was, that was a director and they hired it. It was cute. It was fine. But then, then when we could do our own stuff, then we were just wilding out. Like the Dick Starbuck one, they also, Raucous did it, but that was just like weird too. But we always, but the videos were fun to do too, man. Those were awesome.
You mentioned your son. Does he know of this
but
material?
He's not too interested in it, which is good. I think like sometimes he's told his friends and stuff, but they won't really, no one's ever like said, even him, I don't even think he's really, sometimes I'll like in the car, something will come up and I just play and I start like looking and seeing if he even knows it. And now he's 15. And if I put something, he'll be like, that's you, right? And I'm like, yeah. But then like, he's not like going on YouTube and like listening for it. He doesn't like download it and like listen to it because why the hell would he?
Well,
He's
yeah,
23 years old.
It's not Jack Harlow and
Well, he likes like all the new shit, man. He
sure.
Likes, so but he likes hip hop, which is very interesting, and he just likes new stuff.
Tell the kids you have a song on Tony Hawk. That's what you got to tell them.
That's the thing. I'm like, yeah, Lucas, there was this game way, way long time ago. Like that. That's what he would like. Yeah, because he's a big video game head. For sure.
Do you like any of his stuff?
Who?
Your son's. The stuff he likes. Do you like any of it?
No, but I mean, I just listen to it like a couple. It's one of those things when it's like you just get drilled in your head. You can kind of say like there's a couple things.
Tolerate some of it.
I guess like when Champions came out, like Meek Mill, right? Mm-hmm. So that album, and he liked that. So like the 2 or 3 songs that were kind of, like the one with Drake,
not terrible,
going bad,
eventually just got programmed into liking it.
Yeah.
But
I'm with AE. My daughter's 17. I'm right there with you, man.
Yeah.
I try to show her shit like Hip Hop Hooray, and I'm like, Listen, you like
No,
this.
it's because it's a different beat.
My daughter loves that shit, but she's 16 and she's cut from a different cloth. I mean, it just depends on how you introduce it.
Right.
But, here's the funny thing. If you're walking down the street and you see Chuck D, what happens?
I would go up to him and be like, yo, man, thank you for everything. I want to tell you, you turned me into a rapper, and I went to your show. I have the ticket. It's April 17th, 1987.
Is that your guy?
Yeah, I love Chuck because he's old, and he's like a real sports like historian, to real New York crazy high levels. Like,
right.
Played with played with Doc. You ever see the picture of him and Doc on like the playground?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's crazy. He's an icon for me, and
his art. Have you seen his art?
Yeah. And so I met him a few times. I spoke with him a few times. It's still my get that I want on this show. It's the one interview I haven't been able to secure, but it's he means so much to me. And it's crazy because I miss that. Do you understand where I'm coming from when I say what I say?
No, I do. I think you're just, think about how many hip hop of that era, not many made it out of there, like LL Cool J and like a few others, like the real, like from back then. So, even Run DMC, man, like, when Down with the King and stuff, like I wasn't that into that song.
Right.
Maybe
but it was their resurrection in a lot of ways.
Right. But I think that happened to a lot of people. But Chuck D was also, he wasn't like a real flower. He's almost like a spoken word, like the way he rhymes is, and rhythmically, obviously. But I think he was also the most political besides KRS, and in a different way,
Just missed that. Revolutionary generation.
And shifting back to the indie era, which is this episode.
Yeah, sorry.
Let's shit on somebody who we can all agree is a dickhead, and that's R.A. the Rugged Man. Can I?
Yes. Amen.
Dude, he's real weird, man. Like, I like his like humility.
Humility.
Insane. Not his humility. He makes his self-deprecating, like he's
okay. That's kind of shtickish, I think. I don't know if
that's his thing,
but he really does, and he is like that, man. Like, well, first of all, he has like he may have like some kind of thing that he's always dealt with. He's talked about it, I think. Like
we all have something we deal with.
Well, yeah,
I'm not that empathetic. I'll tell you.
I had whole things with him where we had whole fights, not physical fist fights, but like going back and forth where he was being ridiculous about so many things. So yeah, I know about those things.
Yeah, and I don't want you to let people in on things that are private or happening with you guys, but we've had many guests on this show. The greatest producers of all time, some of the greatest rappers of all time. There's never been an interview where I have not enjoyed like the RA. And I think RA, he's just an unlikable guy. He's an incredible MC. Right. But I think it doesn't matter how good you are of an MC. If you're not likable, it's very hard to get behind. Kind of like the way people are with LeBron.
Well, my experience with RA was he was moody. And he would have like one day where he was like kind of shitty or in a shitty mood, and he would just be shitty. But then he would always be like, yo, man, I'm sorry. Not that that's a thing, because people do that all the time and they just keep doing it. I kind of think maybe he does. But to be honest, I really haven't had a lot of interactions. I guess he's in Germany. He has like kids. So
I read a couple things, that number one, he kind of regrets doing the Smut Peddlers and the stuff that you guys did 20 some years ago, which
come on, you can't talk about these people like that.
The album is a classic. It's an underground classic.
Kiss your blast.
You can't take shit so fucking serious. Take it for what it is. Did you get upset about 2 Live Crew? Come on, son. Like, right. Take it for what it is. And then also Cage, same thing. He wants apparently today in his fucking weirdo life, he wants nothing to do with Smut Peddlers. He'd rather have long hair and cut himself.
Well, yeah, there's 2 Cages. I mean, you guys got the good Cage, the Cage that looks like Ash from Euphoria, but like an older version. Like you got like the prime Cage, and then there's the Cage that went on with Shia LaBeouf, and like you said, got that skater haircut where he's constantly got to move his hands across his fucking forehead because the hair's in his eyes. Like that's not the Cage we wanted to listen to.
Lose 75 pounds.
You guys got the good Cage. You worked with a lot of folks, but I just want to write off a few because EC, like I said, was so important during this time. You guys put out so many good records, not just of High and the Mighty, not just the compilations, but you somehow managed to get like Tame One out of retirement or wherever the fuck he was.
So good.
That was a great album, the Leak Brothers. I mean, talk a little bit about the EC run because it was pretty dominant for.
Yeah, and Copyright, that motherfucker was a monster.
Another one, Copyright,
monster.
Man. Yeah, I thought we definitely had, we had like when we hit our peak, like as the Raucous thing was ending, I really felt that's when we kind of like had everything. That's right. Like when we were able to get Tame, it was just meeting people and being like, look, like, well, first of all, Mai had all these beats. It was like, okay, you come here. We had a formula. It was like, all right, Tame, you come here. Here's beats. And now, like we would do, like our formula was like 80% Mai. And then like you'd have, your J Zone beat here, Al, Seb, all those, kind of like Reef, put in here and there. So, you had like different stuff like that.
Do you recall like in the early stages of Tame One coming on board? And because I know he's a great guy, but a very unique kind of a guy,
Yeah, well, he was always like real good with us, but like sometimes like during shows, he would just go and like power drink and like smoke like dust and some shit and just be like some other person. And I've been with him on stage where he's thrown up on stage and like kind of backs up and just kept going. And people are like, and it was like, crazy.
Power puke.
That was insane. But yeah, I mean that and like, like, so like we went back to our roots. Like, I don't know if you remember the Rip Shop record.
Yeah.
That one.
Super dope.
And, and so Rip Shop was in like the Mixed Nuts. So that goes back to like the Boston time. So like we did that and Acrobatic. And then, and Copyright. And that's what it was, is Raucous gave us a certain amount per record. So we would also just go to people and be like, Copyright, you have, and people would have like 65% of an album done. So then Mai would do 4 songs, 5, maybe I was on it, or like then Cage was on it, or someone was on it, like High Exalted was probably almost all the way done. And then eventually, maybe a couple other things were done. We just all would just be interchangeable. That's why we would do a show. We could go to Europe with me, Cage, and Copyright. And it would be like 4 different acts. It'd be Cage, High and Mighty, Spunt Peddlers, Copyright. And we would literally be able to do just interchangeable. So, it was just like we were just able to, the Raucous thing allowed us to put out all those, things. And then I don't know if you remember like some of the art, we would have this guy, Brian Life. It's also from Boston. He did all those and like, it was like our thing. And we just, we kind of had a good formula for sure.
Hey, being from Columbus, how the hell did you guys find Copyright?
Well, that was an RJD2 and, like Bobbito thing, because Megahertz, I don't know how Bobbito even linked up with them. I think maybe RJ, I guess.
RJ's the shit.
Yeah, he really is. Philly. And so he brought them in, and then, we were just like, Copy was fucking incredible. It's like, listen to this guy. It's like, okay. It's like Tame, okay. Cage, like, it was like, it was great. We had a lot of talent around us. And then like, rest in peace, Camus, man. Like, we would just have these days where just everyone was just sitting there and like, we would just do stuff. So it was, we were lucky.
I heard in an interview with Be Real many years ago where he decided at one point he had to have an affect to his voice to stand out. And clearly people are listening to you now. This is well, I don't want to date ourselves, but 20 some years later.
Yeah.
So our voices do change, but
yeah,
Bobby Brady syndrome.
Your voice stood out. It was always unique, and for the longest time, I didn't even know you were a white guy. I think I didn't know until the liner notes of the CD. I'm like, whoa. When did you realize like that was like that voice? It's such a unique voice. Is that something you worked on, or that came to you naturally when you were?
It was just the way I did it. I think I don't know. Even in high school, like all my friends were like, you sound like Rakim, and I did. Like in like 88, not good. Not, lyrically, but, like voice wise. And so I guess I just, would just go into that. And it's just like, it's also just the headphones and you're just like transformed. That's just the way it is for me.
Dre talks sexy to his wife. He usually gets that Barry White voice.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's sort of like that.
Yeah.
Like you have, okay.
Oh, yeah. It works wonders. Let me tell you.
Hey, I got a question. Weatherman. Yak Balls. Who is that?
Yak Balls he's the best. What do you mean? You don't know Yak Balls?
No, what I mean is like, where did that come from? He came out of nowhere. He's good as hell. He was on the album.
Well,
How did that come about?
So that's another thing. You know what Footwork was, right? Bobbito store.
Yeah.
So
sneaker store.
in the East Village, I lived on 5th between A and B when I moved to New York out of Boston. So I was right near the store.
They steal the doors off your cars back then at that area.
Right, exactly. It was 3 kids. It was Vaz. So I don't know if you know. Did you see the Bobbito and Stretch documentary?
Yeah,
I don't know if you know who Vaz is, but Vaz is like, he was just like in the scene, and he like has all the Stretch tapes, and he's just a graffiti head, like just a New York head. And then DJ Ellie, I don't know if you know him. He did stuff on Fondulum too, and he did some cuts. He was actually DJing my wedding, and he's like a big like house DJ now in New York. And then Yak, and so and he worked there, Yash, and so he worked there, and so like they all hung out, and so like you'd go in there and they'd be like rhyming and stuff. So Bobbito put out I guess some of the first Yak stuff, Yak Balls, and then like again that album he kind of did it, and we were able to put it out because people would come to us with albums, and we'd be like, okay, we're gonna give you this money, let's talk, and we would just give an advance, and then we'd be like, all right, and like whatever machine, like either we were with Land Speed or we put out money or whoever was just distributing it, they just would like want to do it, like with Copyrights album, Yak Balls album, like some people would come to us with like whole, like mostly the whole album done. Crazy one-offs of like Leak Brothers and Nighthawks, like that shit. So we just could make an album because we all hung out together. So Camus and Cage are like, let's do Nighthawks, and stuff like that.
I heard Yak on the 5 in the clip. When did this Weatherman thing come about? Like, was it one day at a show, everyone decided like this is the group we're gonna? Because the super group was always a thing.
Yeah, I think no, it was really Cage and I think LP and like I think Breeze and Yak and them. Like, so I think it was more like people like those guys who kind of like started talking about it, and then people started to either be in it or not. Like I was in it for a second, but then I wasn't in it, and like it was like kind of clicky a little
because it went from EC to Definitive Jux, right?
Well, that's what it was. Is then so we just did that mixtape. And like when we did, the Conspiracy, which like every one of them is on it. And it's like that, like think about that. You couldn't make that shit now, like an LP's on it and, Vast and like Copy and like there's whole, like, so then Copy would just do a song. So that would be on there. I mean, then whatever, then everything went to what it went to. And like then, Cage and Copyright and everyone got, were done with us, and they move on, and then there was that part.
Do you have many years? I don't know if things have changed, but do you have any relationships with any of these guys that you once worked with back in the EC days?
Yeah, but mostly social media and stuff like Tame. When we did our New York show, Tame came.
Okay.
And there was no one there. It was Memorial Day weekend or Labor Day weekend or some shit. But we did that show. But yeah, I did talk to Cage up until right at the beginning of the pandemic. But I mean, I have his last number, I think, if I texted him or something. But Mai and him talk, and me and Mai are obviously still talk a lot, and we haven't lived in the same city in a long time.
He's in Vegas, right?
Yeah, and then he's been in Vegas for 16 years.
And he's been clean for how many years now?
He hasn't for alcohol for many years.
I mean, he's lost a significant amount of weight. He looks good, and he's
been like that. Just really through whatchamacallit, through Instagram, when Thurston Howe put out the record. I mean, when he put out his book, I reached out. I was like, yo, man. See, I just give people their flowers on stuff. I talked to Pharoahe and we text about the Mets. So that's what I talked to him about, and cards. And I've actually been in, I don't know if you see his Instagram. He really collects figures.
Pharoahe?
Yeah.
I spoke to him 2 hours ago.
Yeah. So all I'm saying is one time I was in a store and I texted him on Twitter or something. I was like, dude, I'm in this. I see a lot of figures. Let me know.
He's a huge nerd.
All right, so you look at Jay at what he's got behind him.
Of course. Well,
I see you at a blank wall. What do you have that is your claim to fame?
He has a Lenny Dykstra rookie card with some tobacco stains on it.
No, seriously, what's your one thing that you're proud of? Whether it's music, memorabilia, or baseball, or what's your one thing?
No, I think music, and I think just that I was, in my life, the other things hip hop is still part of my life, and obviously when you're a father, I just want to do everything with him. So I just, my son is a Marvel, he was in Star Wars, just it's the most beautiful. It's all you really want in life. I literally had all the Star Wars figures from when I was a kid. They were played with. They weren't, perfect. And I was when I was 10, I was I'm going to save these for my kid. And I'm going to play with these with my kid. And you do it.
So you have all the figures from the early 80s.
Yeah, dude. And then I have a movie of me when he's 4, and I dust off the Darth Vader case and I just open it and I'm showing him. And then I have ones where the first things he learned is the figures, Greedo, Chewbacca, R2D2, he's saying it, he learned. So dude, all of it. And then, I've talked to this guy a lot about the last 2 years, with back in the cards has just been, it's been great, insane and great. And, I'm just trying to get my Ricky Henderson room. How about how there's
you're talking to the right guy here.
There's a guy 10 times more Ricky Henderson stuff than this guy. How about that dude? What's that guy's name?
Oh, Ricky 939, Ken?
Yes. Dude.
Yes.
That dude has a whole apartment.
No, I know. If I was dedicated to just one thing, I would, but I have, here, I'll quickly show you because you said Star Wars.
Yeah, man. Woo! Right.
Can you see all those figures?
Yeah, well, we all don't have your luxurious room. God, when you were building it, I was like, Jesus Christ, this guy.
So, what do you think of the Boba Fett, the Book of Boba Fett?
It's good. I know everyone. The Mandalorian was in it too much. It's dope. Nerd! No! Of course, you're going to be critical about it, but think about 10, 15 years ago. The thought that there would be a Boba Fett show. That's something when you were 15, you would say, what do you want to see most in your life? It'd be it's a Boba Fett show. And it was and then you fucking got it. So I won't complain. All that shit. And then we're going to, all this stuff, it's gravy. It's I say when I was in 1983. I was 11 years old.
It was Jedi.
There were 9 hours or 10 hours, including little specials of content. And my son has seen hundreds, 500 hours of content. And he knows it all. He knows it much better than me. He'll go into the Clone Wars and be like, so that's him and my music career. So being able to absorb all my weird shit, besides like the porn stuff, but he's a little sicko. No, but he's real sicko. I don't know if you know about 15-year-old, 16-year-old boys. But yeah. Right.
15, 16. He probably has a sock like Kev. Kev used to keep a sock near his baseball cards.
Hell yeah.
Next to his Kevin Moss rookie cards, it would be a yellow sock.
I worked at a video store, so I had all the fucking videos back in the day. And people were
Dre,
like,
did you have the sheet that you had to pull aside to go into that room?
Yeah, of course, man. I worked at a video
all
store.
The good video stores
before Blockbuster, bro.
Like
beads. Oh, you got to go through the beads.
And you used to get a free videotape when you signed up. And when we signed people up, I never gave them the videotape, and all I would do is like duplicate porn back in the back room, and I'd keep it with myself. That's it.
That's so funny you say that, because I think Mighty Mai's first job, it was at a place called Video City, which was on 20. Do you know that spot? It's on 20th and like between Pine and Spruce, right? And it's still there, and it's like a digitizing place now. But this was a video store in the 80s, and he used to take the porn and like bring it home. And,
of course,
like some of the first ones that we would see.
That was our life,
now Dre jerks off to Chrissy Canyon in his Oculus too.
I got my Oculus. It's fucking fantastic. I'm trying to explain to them that Oculus is so fantastic when it comes to this next level shit.
I have a friend who is like, it's crazy. They're like whispering in your ear.
But here's the thing: if you get anyone over 40, you see every line and shit. You got to get into that perv shit. And like, I got to go below the 35 age, and it's creepy because I got kids, and it's a whole thing. Fuck it.
We're becoming a bunch of pervs now.
It's not
on this
good.
Show.
It's not good.
We didn't even bring up Ashlyn Gear yet.
Who?
She was my favorite. Ashlyn Gear.
Yeah.
Back in the day, it was shit. Come on. You had Seika. You had, who was that blonde? Nina Hartley. They were scary girls back in the day.
Yeah,
Nina Hartley. Bill, totally.
Janine Lindenmuller.
Yeah, she was great. Peter North used to bust mad loads. It's crazy that we're speaking about this, but hey, smut peddlers are in the fucking house, man.
Yes.
This is what we're talking about.
So
was it hard?
You guys, go ahead, Dre. I'm sorry, Jake.
By the
go
way,
ahead.
you look like LL Cool J for some reason tonight, like a white LL Cool J with his hat.
He does.
Right?
Lick your lips. Do your thing. Now say what LL says. Say it.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying?
No, I was just gonna make a bad joke since we were talking about being perverted. I was gonna say, was it very hard to not jerk off to Rashida Jones?
She was real cool. She's like actually, like when a girl's like beautiful but not sexy.
Right.
That's what it is. She
like homegirl, right? Homegirl.
Yeah, she was just like very like you were like, damn, she should be a movie star, and she, like she had the face, like the bone structure, all that shit.
Was she a head, like a real head? I mean, like her sister or engaged to Tupac, so I know she was always around this. And QD3 was an amazing producer in the 90s, so she's always been around the hip hop, but especially independent 90s hip hop. Did she really like that kind of stuff?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I think it's more that she was with Mark and she wanted to do it. I don't know. I think she liked the song when we played it for her. I remember like she liked it or something. But yeah, I don't even know if she would still know it or anything. But it was just, like she was like 20 something. So she's like, yeah, I'm gonna sing at this, sing on this rap song.
Props to Mark Ronson for going across a 20-something-year-old Rashida Jones. Props. Holy shit.
Yeah, man.
Famous kids roll with the famous kids, man. Yeah. Eon, so during the course of Eastern Conference Records, you had the good and the bad fortune of being in the indie scene when it was hot as can be, And then also when the internet age came about and kind of wrecked the whole shit. So at what point did you guys go, okay, we made 7, 8 albums, whatever that number is, maybe more. Yeah, I think it's over, and I think we should move on and do something else. At what point did that happen?
Well, I think it was like 2003. So, we do the 2 of the 3 album deal with Raucous. And it's like, after the Smut Peddlers, it was like, okay, what are you going to do? And by that time, it was like 2002. And I think we were just like, for whatever reason, we kind of, we broke up with them. And then that's when, we went to Land Speed. So as that happened, also, like, the Napster thing happened. So, like, the way I try to kind of equate it is when we put out our B-Boy document on Eastern Conference Records, with the Jamal Shabazz, photograph on there of the 4, like, B-Boys, we sold like 40,000 of them. Like, and that was us. Like, that's Eastern Conference. Like, we did that. It wasn't Raucous record. And then, like, the next record, like when Air Force One came out and all that, we would sell like 200 records. So it was over. It was like all the people who are now like 38 and 40 who were like 18 in 99 or like 19 in that range, that 16, 17, 18, those were our fans. They were done with paying. Like, unless you were a DJ, now you could listen to a song. You didn't physically have to buy something. So there was like, remember, like 03 and 04, it was a free-for-all. There was no regulation. No one knew how you were going to get paid. And so you just didn't. So I was living in New York City. At first, I lived in this little studio, and then I met my wife. So I first had a $450 studio. And then in 2003 and 4, I was paying $2,700 a month. And that's like paying $5,000 now. Wow. So lived in Manhattan. And then it just was like, holy shit, like this shit is drying up.
But it was pretty special when we were there. I mean, not many people got to live that.
Right. And so I was like, okay. And look, I went to college. I wasn't just going to think I was going to have a 50-year rap career. I wanted to have a family. So, and like, me and Mai are like best friends. He's like my brother still. It's nothing, it wasn't like a breakup or anything. It was like me and Mai lived from when we were 8 years old to 33 in the same city, whether it was Philly, Boston, or New York. So it was kind of like, and really hip hop was about doing it with Milo. He's my best friend. It's like, that was a big part of, I don't know, I wouldn't have had a rap career if me and him didn't do that together, because it was part of our friendship and part of our life. It was our life. So I think just Napster, like, cut it out. It was then 2004, and then like I couldn't afford it anymore. So 2005, I moved to Brooklyn, and like then we were going to have a kid. So then I was like, I need to get a job, and then that's when we moved back to Philly. And I've like had a real estate career for like 16 years. So it's just life, but that's what happened. So when that shit happened, it was kind of over. But I think I could have done more. I could have been like, yo, let's just keep doing albums and albums. But I don't know if I necessarily like that.
Well, you did a show 5 years ago, right? I mean, you still get the itch every once in a while.
Oh yeah, no, and I'm down to do something too. Like Milo's talking about moving back east.
Yeah,
like because Las Vegas, he DJ'd in clubs for, made a lot of money and did real well out there, and it's just, part of his talent got him this blessing, and it's just beautiful. So maybe he comes back, maybe we do something, but it was, that was a hard time, man. That was, that's all you knew, that's all I knew. So it was like, then it was like grow up real quick time. And that's, I guess, what I did.
Well, you got to feel proud the fact that that EC name is synonymous with this whole indie era. And when you saw an EC record, whether it was on Sandbox or Hip Hop Site or Underground Hip Hop, you bought it. You bought it because of the track record. You bought it because the fact that you guys just continuously made bangers. Yeah. And like I said earlier in the show, you know, there's labels like Ruckus or Guess Wild, ABB, and Eastern Conferences right there in the same conversation as being the powerhouse indie labels that really kind of champion this indie movement. So, and for me personally, after the second golden era, like the indie era is probably my second favorite era in hip hop. Right. You know, yeah. I love the second golden era, you know, the 90 to 5, 93, 94, 95. Right. And then I loved this. I loved hearing Kool Keith. And I think, again, going back, you're like us. You have the same interests. You grew up, well, I don't know who's older, you or Dre. Probably Dre.
I don't know. September 71.
Eon.
I'm 72.
You're older, Dre. There you go.
But the point I'm trying to make is, you know, you grew up as a hip hop aficionado, an enthusiast, a lover, and you got to do something that many of us, exception of Wade did it for a little bit.
Yeah.
Couldn't even fathom. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
And, you know, I've always wanted to talk to you. Like I said earlier, we usually talk about sports and cards and all that nerd shit, but talking hip hop is cool.
Yeah, man. I really appreciate this. And I love what
this era that,
man. It's great. And I was like, I chilled like since kind of like this year, just because my knee was starting to get jacked up. But like, I listened to y'all, you know, the whole thing running. So I really got running.
Okay.
After like I got divorced in the 15, and so like I just like stopped drinking and smoking, and like I just started running, and I was like crazy, and so like, you know, it's been like that I started smoking again, but that
helps with the knee though.
It's good. It's good for running, man. It's good.
Yeah. So I hear. I hear, man. Well, thank you again, man. And don't stop your passion with the Eagles. Yeah, hopefully, be a baseball back soon.
And the Sixers are about to win the.
Sixers are amazing right now. It's
see if they can get past the Bucks. We'll see if they can get past the Bucks.
First game, it was awesome, man.
And a lot of people, you know, that they follow you on IG. You want to give out your handle now, or if you don't want to give out,
I think it's Emeltz.
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 And I gotta commend you for the love and passion you have with your son. It's always nice to see that, like a father-son relationship. So big ups. And what you were saying about Star Wars, it's the same thing with my son. So I totally relate and can appreciate that. You know.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's Mr. Eon of the High and the Mighty. Thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate it.
All right, I appreciate it, guys.
Have a good night, bro.
Peace.
All right.
Yo, what's up in the place to be? This is Mr. Eon from Eastern Conference Records, the High and Mighty, Smut Peddlers, Dick Starbuck, Porno Detective in the house. I am chilling with Filler Flavor, Kevlar, A. Aaron, a.k.a. Aaron Wade, and my man DJ 360. Take It Personal Radio, doing it big. You are now in the mix.
From the bottom of our hearts, thank you for tuning in to another special episode of Take It Personal. Keep it locked. Roger the announcer. O-U-T.